This video and podcast is brought to you by the Kulkarni Law Firm. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I'm your host, Darshan Kulkarni. I'm here because everyone is talking about ChatGPT 3. Everyone's talking about what it means to pharma. Everyone's talking about how it's going to revolutionize everything we've ever known and everything we're going to now. How much is hype? How much is reality? We have with us Dave Bulger, who knows everything there is to know about AI and everything there is to know about PRC and promotional compliance. So we're going to talk to him. We're going to pick his brains, and we're going to find out a little bit more than, well, I knew. So Dave, you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm Dave. I've had a 35-year career in a combination of behavioral science, artificial intelligence. My background is journalism. And over the years, this Tuzag is my third company. My first company is probably the most relevant to the pharmaceutical industry. I started a company called Micromass Communications in 1994. And if you got a tailored behavioral support program from the pharmaceutical industry in the 90s, odds are we did it. So, yeah, here at the end of my career, I'm still doing the same stuff I was doing when I was 30. We just haven't, as an industry, figured out how to get to the individual, right? Because that's hard. And so what do? We create, personas, and we segment, or we do one-size-fits-all communication. But if you want to accelerate changes in human behavior, you have to dance with the individual. And so that's pretty much what my career has been about, is how do we create a digital concierge, if you will. I'm not a fan of chatbot. Chatbots tend to be transactional. They're basically decision trees dressed up to feel like you're having a real conversation. What we need to be doing is figuring out how to train the computer to have real conversations. And in order to do that, we have to control the content.
There's so much to sort of parse through there, right?
Because sorry about that.
No. I love it. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Let's start from the beginning. Everyone's been using the term AI, and everyone's been saying ChatGPT 3 is an AI. My first question for you is it an AI? Because I'm hearing another school of thought that says, no, it's just a chatbot. It's a smart chatbot, but it's a chatbot.
Yeah.
So what is it?
No, I think it's fair. It depends on, and this is the challenge. If you talk to people with backgrounds in artificial intelligence, you're going to get a different response than if you talk to salespeople who have just decided that AI is the buzzword that gets them in the door, right? And so if we dissect AI principles, ChatGPT, and I'm a fanboy. Like, I love it. For what it is, it's cool. It's a large language model. You're using natural language processing. You put in some stuff, it goes out and it sniffs content and puts it together in a super cool fashion. If you ask a follow-up question, I didn't know what you're talking about, right? It's not built for that. It also doesn't care if it's wrong. So from that perspective, it is very human, because it will say proudly things that are wrong. And if you don't know they're wrong, So from that perspective, in all seriousness, is it AI? It is the beginnings of where we need to take large language modeling. And I think it's very cool. I love what Microsoft is going to try and do with it, up until they actually do it and realize that it's wrong more often than not. And again, it's happily, proudly wrong. And so you give it points for charisma, but fewer points for accuracy. And I think where the OpenAI folks are headed with this is really exciting. And they're headed in the place, and we're probably 10, 15 years away from this actually being usable to any degree of predictability. But, they're headed towards what the sales side is telling everyone exists now. And that is basically data from Star Trek: The Next Generation, right? We have not created a positronic brain. It is going out and it is scraping the internet to find intelligently compiled things. It is putting them together using better English than most high school graduates are capable of these days, right? But it's not, what is the internet? If you peel back the layers, eventually you're going to get racist, pornographic responses, completely well written, which is, arguably a step up, but not helpful, especially in industries where we need to regulate communication. And so, what we are doing well in the field is we're using machine learning to take large amounts of data collected about you and matching them up against large amounts of data collected from others like you and determining what the right next thing to say is based on that. Natural language processing, we're getting very, very good at interpreting, turning speech into text or turning open typing into usable things. One of the challenges we ran into early on with NLP is if you're trying to drive a conversation and sort of mimic the way people's brains work, right? Where we kind of store the things we know about stuff in one area of the brain and things we know about people in another area. And so when we start talking, we put the context into content into context, right? And in order to do that, you kind of have to keep the conversation in front of you. You can't boil the ocean every single iteration. And so, using neural net principles, you can basically guide a conversation so that you kind of always know what the realm of responses are. And so then you sound more intelligent when you feed back based on the very good work that's being done by the NLP field. So when you combine machine learning and predictive modeling with natural language processing in a sort of dynamic tree structure neural net, you can simulate conversation, right? The real problem and the rate limiter to the world, and this is why everybody's all hot and bothered about Jasper and ChatGPT, is, the computer will write stuff for us. If I had a million monkeys, I could get Shakespeare. And it's like, but first of all, that's theoretical. No one's put a million monkeys in front of typewriters to actually test it. But hypothetically, let's say we could do that. Why? What's your point? What is your outcome? What are you trying to do? And how do you convey that sort of decision-making hierarchy into artificial intelligence? We're getting there. We're moving exponentially faster by the day. I would argue that if I were running a healthcare company that wanted to use conversational AI, I would avoid catastrophic career failure by diving into this now and making it, I'm going to fall on this sword. Too early to fall on that sword. 10, 15 years when we've done enough training and we have enough predictive modeling on conversation, we might be okay. Because the other problem with all of this is most people don't know how to tell the computer what it wants its outcomes to be. So if we think about this from a healthcare perspective, right? I've been in the behavioral sciences for a long time. So behavior change acceleration is sort of my jam. I get it. It's not a sexy jam. It is, however, still a jam. And I need to know, well, what behavioral outcome am I trying to drive? And that behavioral outcome has almost nothing to do with the content. It has everything to do with the receiver, right? So I've got to find relevant content, make it resonant for the receiver, and making it resonant for the receiver requires an understanding we're not collecting via third party, right? We need to understand attitudinal, behavioral, environmental, rational, and emotional characteristics of the individual in order to position the right thing to do in a way that they're most likely to take advantage of it, right? So from a behavioral economics perspective, we need to make all motivation intrinsic. And the only way to I could reward you, I can give you badges and put you on leaderboards and all that stuff. But if I want you to change your behavior, I need to make it your idea. And the only way to make it your idea is to get to know you to a level where I can take science and facts and the right thing to do and tell you a story so that you'll go do it and make it your own. That's how we as people work, right? It's like, oh, first my wife wants me to take out the trash, right? Now she just looks at me weird and I don't take out the trash. But when we were first building the relationship, it was like, honey, trash can's getting full. Honey, doesn't it smell in here? Damn it, Dave, take out the trash, right? I would. But over time, she learned how to figure out what my motivations, which not getting yelled at's a good one. My barriers were, it's like, I don't feel like doing it. Once my motivations outweighed my barriers, I would take the trash out. Now we have a very tight interaction loop that allows her to just kind of look at me and I know time to take the trash out. That's all we're doing with every behavioral decision ever, is figuring out what's the thing so that I can just give you a look and you'll go do the right thing.
I have like 1,000 questions that have come out of this, but I'm gonna start with the initial ones, such as where are you based, by the way, Dave?
So I am living in a beautiful suburb of Syracuse, New York, right now.
Okay, because was that Kansas City's?
Oh yeah, my mom's relatives. I've been a KC fan since Lenny Dawson was there.
Sure.
So I went through the lean years, so we get Patrick Mahomes now. Everyone else can be mad at us. We have Patrick Mahomes. So, but yeah, so my mom's folks were lived in Kansas City. So,
got it. So I want to start from the basics because
sure.
You are one of those people who can talk. I don't know if you've seen these videos where people can explain to a 5-year-old, and then there's explain it to a PhD scientist, and someone explains the same concept in 5 different levels.
Sure.
And you are discussing the PhD level discussion right now, and I'm going. Can we start with the 5-year-old part?
Oh, sure.
Of this? So my 5-year-old brain is telling me. You've thrown around the words NLP, natural language processing. You've thrown around the word ML, machine learning. You've thrown around the word neural network. All of the and then we've thrown around the word artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Whenever and you're not the only person I've asked this question to, which is this AI? The answer I always seem to get is, oh, it's not machine learning, or it's not blah, blah, blah. Do we have a consensus on what AI is before we start parsing the question of do we know what AI is? The next question is, do we know, there are a series of different ways to get to AI, including machine learning, neural networks, blah, blah, blah. How are they different? Where are we now? What is ChatGPT 3? And how does all of this tie into, for example, natural language processing? Could you sort of break that down at a basic level so people understand that?
Sure. So, and this is, I think, one of the problems, right? Artificial intelligence is really sort of a field of expertise, right? And when you talk about the moving from the PhD level to the 5-year-old level, and I don't mean any disrespect to salespeople, but they try to boil this stuff down into easy concepts. And so AI is what we talk about. Right. And we want it to be conversational to sort of separate it from some of the more sciencey aspects. But that's really a misnomer, right? So conversational is as opposed to transactional, right? So if you think about going on like your bank site, and your bank site says, how can I help you today, right? What they have done is they've created a very good transactional tree that saves the time of the call center, because most of the questions you're going to have can be answered. They've already been answered. It's like basically giving you a way to traverse an FAQ, right? 90% of the questions we have already been answered somewhere. So let's figure out which question you have and let's answer it. That's where natural language processing comes in.
So can I stop you there for a second?
Sure, please.
I saw some data out there that suggests that that's not even true, in that people are actually something like 80% of people are unsatisfied with the question trees that people have to go through.
Yeah.
And they don't even get their question answered. And something like 80% of people still have to go to an actual human being at the end of the conversation.
Yes.
So I don't know if those numbers
I didn't say it was good. That's the practice, right? And
got it.
And it will become more efficient as separate quantitative from qualitative. here. So from a quantitative perspective, most of these chatbot builders allow you to stick answers to questions in and allow you to train the bot. This is the natural language processing part of it. What we're doing is we're saying, hey, listen for these synonyms. And when you hear one of these synonyms, it equals, answer A, these answer, B, C, D, E, right? Because we used to just throw that out, right? We call it Q&A mode. Hey, pick one of these answers and I will go look on the next page of the script and read that to you, right? And that's kind of state of the art. But the purpose of it is to accomplish a transaction. When you go away and come back, that bot doesn't know that you had the conversation before, right? Which is a huge failing. And what gets into the qualitative parts of this is either the creative team is getting too fancy and trying to make you think it's data from Star Trek, as opposed to, let's all face it, we know we're talking to a bot, right? Or they try to get too fancy qualitatively with the branching, right? And so that's kind of where, when we think of conversational versus transactional, people are trying to make basically navigating a call script in text fashion feel like you're actually having a conversation. And so it starts to break down because conversation is all about nuance, not multiple choice.
So that's an interesting comment you just made, right? A second ago, and I'm sorry, we keep getting pulled away from the original question, which is what are all these technologies? But one of the pieces you mentioned is someone got too fancy with the script. And I understand that from a physical standpoint, like you don't want to make someone like move through 15 pages to get to the next possible answer choice. But isn't that exactly what a computer's good at, which is moving quickly from page 1 to page 15 to page 22, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So what is too fancy? What does that mean in the context of a computer?
So some of that is all about the creative process, right? Okay. So at some point, somebody at the agency or somebody on the content team, wanted this to not be dull. I completely appreciate that. Right. And this kind of ties into to the original question of that's where sort of predictive modeling comes in. And people like to call machine learning. Machine learning is just fancy if-then statements. I just, as a software guy, it's like, no, these are just nested if statements.
Okay.
And so what we're trying to do is say, of the data we have available, where do we think we should go next in the tree? And depending on, and I do not do this in the financial services industry, so I may be, I don't know what I don't know. My hypothesis from being a user is that not always do the creative people understand how to use the algorithms, right? And so you've got an engineering team that's building the algorithms, right? And if we're going back to, that's probably 10th grade, right? 5-year-old, if this, then this, all right?
Right.
And so machine learning is just like really smart people doing really clever things with if-then statements around sets of data.
Okay.
Right? Now, that's not trivializing. That's really hard. And that takes, a really decent left brain to be able to pull that off.
So I'm confused. Why is that so hard? Because it seems, I mean, I've coded before, but it's been like decades since I did any actual serious coding. But my point is, I still know how to use things like webhooks, and I still know how to things like if this, then that.
Yeah.
How is machine learning fancier than a if this, then that kind of thing?
It's processing those algorithms against very large data sets. Right. And so the more things you have to go look at to see if it's a match, the longer it takes. And so a lot of why ML is as good as it is now is our computational processes have gotten better.
Got it.
It doesn't require Watson anymore.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Now, and so, but the problem with, it's kind of like we always talk about, oh, the iPhone, everybody's got a computer in their hand. Right. Well, it's a dangerous thing. Right. So it's how we apply that understanding that helps make this right. And, I really wish, and this is what we do at my company, is our creative team works hand in hand with our engineers, right? So that they understand how to take advantage of all the cool algorithms that are being written. They're actually asking, hey, I need to know, based on these 5 data points, where should this move next? And, the exciting part of that is the answer is it depends, right? Because every time, so on a Tuesday, we're going to ask that question, and we might go to a different place than we'll go on Wednesday, because we've got more data on Wednesday than we had Tuesday, and it tells us a different thing. Right. And when we look at this, again, the other fun part of machine learning is probability heuristics, right? So how right do I think I am? And how right do I need to be? So I collect this. I've written an algorithm that says, all right, based on somebody who's not very confident that they can exercise a lot, and it's snowing today in Syracuse, what should I tell them to do that's going to get them active today? Right. That's very different than when I go and I pull the zip code and I go look at the weather to see, oh, it's sunny out and it's only 40 degrees. I'm going to have you go for a walk outside. Right? Snowy day, it's 19 degrees here. Probably going to recommend the treadmill. Why? Because I know you have a treadmill. If you don't have a treadmill, I'm just going to say, why don't you just walk around your house a few times inside, walk around, bring a dust cloth with you, right? Why do I say that? Because I know that you like to keep a clean house. Why do I know that? I asked you that at some point in the past, right? And that's all about putting the content in context. The simple content is I need you to get up and move around. Right. The context is where can I tell you to do that? And how do I impel you to do that? Right. And so that's where the dust cloth example comes in. Right. But now I need to say, okay, how confident am I that that's the right thing to do? Because I, as the designer of the game, say that I want them to get on the treadmill. Yeah. They have a treadmill, get on the treadmill. What I want the predictive model to say is, oh, I know these other things about the person. I'm going to say that walking around the house dusting is better than the treadmill today. And I'll go, if you're 80% confident in that computer, knock yourself out. Tell them to do that. And then let's see if they did it.
What I'm hearing from you, and again, we haven't even gotten to the deep end of this, but no, I'm enjoying this. What I'm hearing from you without you saying it is what Google will do with this is very different from what a Target bot would do with this, and it's very different from what Pfizer would do with this. Absolutely. And what I mean by that, for those people who are sort of trying to understand the context of what I just said, if Target is doing this, Target's going, do you need a elliptical machine or do you need a treadmill so that you don't have this problem next time it's snowing outside in Syracuse? Yep. If Pfizer's doing this, they might say, you know what, you can't go out. Here's some Ozempic. I don't know if Pfizer makes Ozempic, to be honest, but whoever it is. And if it's Google theoretically could be a personal. However, they're more interested in your data, so they want to know, do you have a dust cloth? And do you want to, what else can I know about you so that I can give you a really good answer about yourself, and therefore you become really dependent on me as we move forward? Absolutely.
And so, you mentioned it. So a very important thing you just said, as we move forward, which is the other great limitation right now on a lot of these models, is there's no sense of memory.
Right.
Right? All great relationships are based on shared experiences.
Right.
And in order to have a shared experience, we got to have a first date. And in order to have a second date and not be like Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore, right?
Yeah.
I need to remember the first date. Oh, she doesn't like it when I talk about the Kansas City. So we're not going to talk sports this date. And if I'm lucky, I get a third date and I pick up some more things. And pretty soon, we're not going to a sporting event or a movie because she likes the theater. I'm getting theater tickets. Why I want a fourth date. Right?
It reminds me of Groundhog's Day.
Yes.
Where he actually goes, I'm a god only because I've lived through it a million times.
Absolutely. He has optimized his algorithm. That's the beauty of Groundhog Day.
Right.
And that's the promise of machine learning. But it requires us to ask the right questions, right? And listen appropriately, which is why when we talk about and then move to the right spot, that's why if I'm talking to a 5-year-old about AI principles, I would say, so think about the game Candyland, right? And in Candyland, you're getting cards, and sometimes you get to jump to a different space depending on the card. So think of the card as an algorithm, right? You don't have to remember this, you're 5, right? Yeah. So, but you think of that card has a bunch of rules on it that tells you where on the board you get to go next. And because you and I are playing the game, when I hear you say something, I am going to say something back because I'm taking what you've said, right? And I have put it into things that I understand so that I can say something back. That's natural language processing, right? And so even in a game of Candyland, if we were going to write a computer program to play Candyland, somebody's done it, Hasbro's done it. That's the stuff that they put in there. It's just the in their game, probably less natural language processing, but all of the rules of the game are static. It's what your data looks like that determines your position on the board and whether you get a card and where you go. Well, the next time we play, right? It's like, I kind of know you always want princess, whatever, So I give it to you this time, right? Like, because again, as the grown up, I want this game to be over quickly. And so I'm going to stack the algorithms so that when you pull up that first card, you get way up there so we can go do something else because I'm a grown adult and Candyland board. But anyway, but I like spending time with you.
Right.
Which is the other key point is the quality of that game is having a side chat with you. So my partner at Tuzag, Neil Sofian, nationally recognized engagement specialist, right? So Neil always says that, it's more important to know the person than it is to understand their health stuff. The health stuff will come. If I get to know you as a person, as I'm learning health information about you, I can now tailor what I say based on all of the stuff you care about.
Right.
And so that's the importance that's where this starts to get really nuanced. And the only way I could figure out how to make this happen was to go back to old school role-playing games. Right.
But before we get into that, I kind of want to, and we're literally well past time, and we could easily have another 2 hours on this conversation. So I do hope you'll consider coming back.
Oh, absolutely. I talked your ear off. I apologize.
No, I love it. But I'm thinking about the news that's going on yesterday and today, where Google, this is last week's news, Google said they put out a red alert saying, we need to figure this out. I already see myself using Google less, using ChatGPT 3, and trying to decide certain answers. And I recognize, for me, I know that those answers are wrong, but those are good jump-off points for me to work from. Yeah. It's like having a really dumb guy who's done all the research that I can add to, and that's the value of it for me. But what you just pointed out was kind of critical to me, which is Google saying this. Google already knows a ton about me. On the other hand, Microsoft is putting in $10 billion to get into, I mean, they already had $1 billion in there, I guess an additional 9 more to get a 49% stake in ChatGPT 3. So if that's true, they're going to get the technology. So what I'm seeing is, on one hand, you've got ChatGPT 3, which can give you the technology. Google has the context. The beauty is when they both come together.
Absolutely.
So if you were predicting, and again, this is not for stock purposes,
Nope.
But who is the winner in a scenario like this?
Short term, I think Bing will benefit.
Okay.
Don't bet against Google.
Right.
Full disclosure, my son's engineer at Google on GCP, on the cloud platform. Not
full disclosure, I hold a ton of shares of Google as well. So yeah.
But I would not bet against Google for a couple of important reasons on this long term.
Yeah.
Is Google does have way more data. Right now, that doesn't mean that Bing can't get it over time. Google is more practiced in what to do with it.
Right.
And so again, most of this, so the fun part of, and I'll probably go play with Bing and do some searches. If I want precision, I'm always using Google. If I want to have a good time and see what the heck, search roulette comes up with today, I'll go play with Bing because it is entertainment.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Darshan Talks. I'm your host, Darshan Kulkarni. I'm here because everyone is talking about ChatGPT 3. Everyone's talking about what it means to pharma. Everyone's talking about how it's going to revolutionize everything we've ever known and everything we're going to now. How much is hype? How much is reality? We have with us Dave Bulger, who knows everything there is to know about AI and everything there is to know about PRC and promotional compliance. So we're going to talk to him. We're going to pick his brains, and we're going to find out a little bit more than, well, I knew. So Dave, you want to introduce yourself before we get started?
Sure. I'm Dave. I've had a 35-year career in a combination of behavioral science, artificial intelligence. My background is journalism. And over the years, this Tuzag is my third company. My first company is probably the most relevant to the pharmaceutical industry. I started a company called Micromass Communications in 1994. And if you got a tailored behavioral support program from the pharmaceutical industry in the 90s, odds are we did it. So, here at the end of my career, I'm still doing the same stuff I was doing when I was 30. We just haven't, as an industry, figured out how to get to the individual, right? Because that's hard. And so what do? We create, personas, and we segment, or we do one-size-fits-all communication. But if you want to accelerate changes in human behavior, you have to dance with the individual. And so that's pretty much what my career has been about, is how do we create a digital concierge, if you will. I'm not a fan of chatbot. Chatbots tend to be transactional. They're basically decision trees dressed up to feel like you're having a real conversation. What we need to be doing is figuring out how to train the computer to have real conversations. And in order to do that, we have to control the content.
There's so much to sort of parse through there, right?
Because sorry about that.
No. I love it. That's exactly what we're trying to do. Let's start from the beginning. Everyone's been using the term AI, and everyone's been saying ChatGPT 3 is an AI. My first question for you is it an AI? Because I'm hearing another school of thought that says, no, it's just a chatbot. It's a smart chatbot, but these conversations are not intended to be legal, regulatory, or clinical advice and may not be right for you. These conversations are intended for educational purposes only. Conversations on this forum do not create an attorney-client relationship.